Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing really well. So apologies, I did take about a week off of filming videos after doing Vlogmas. I was just basically completely wiped and I just needed to take Christmas week off. As you know, I did lose my voice towards the end of Vlogmas and I had completely run out of ideas of voiceless videos that I could do. So I think the fact that I basically was a complete vegetable for a whole week has actually done me good. I've not had any work, I've not filmed, edited or uploaded any videos, and to be honest, I think I'm better for it. But that unfortunately means that we are now on the 31st of December when I'm filming, and I've not done any of the normal end of year content that I'm seeing so many other booktubers doing. And initially I thought to myself, oh, that's okay, there's not that much end of year stuff that I want to do, but in actual fact there is so much end of year content that I wanted to do. There's at least a good 6 or 7 videos. So I'm really sorry if you're bored of this already, but I think the next few weeks are going to be me just pushing out this retrospective on 2021 kind of content. So I'm really sorry if you're bored of Christmassy end of year stuff, but that's what it's gonna be. I'm sorry. But I thought to appease you, I would do, you know, a crowd pleaser, which is a book haul. Not only a book haul, but a Christmas book haul. Just going through a few of the things that I got for Christmas that I received as gifts, but also things that I picked up myself, particularly in Waterstone's half price off of hardbacks sale. I didn't actually go into a shop because I'm still a little bit cautious, especially because of this time of the year. I'm already around a lot of people anyway, so I didn't need to exacerbate that by going into shops. But I did do a little sneaky purchasing online of things that were on the discount online. But starting off with, I'm going to show you a book that was sent to me by the publishers. It was a book that I requested for review. I asked them to send it to my parents' house, and then when it arrived a couple of days before I was due to come home, and my mum messaged me and said, what do you want me to do with this? And I said, just wrap it up and put it under the tree. And she 100% did that. So even though this wasn't a present from the publishers, I pretended like it was. And that book is 5 Straight Lines, A History of Music by Andrew Gant. And I just thought this sounded so incredibly fascinating. I don't feel like I mention music and music playing too much. You do know that I'm a musical theatre fan, but as a teenager I had musical instrument lessons, I had singing lessons, piano, violin, and at one point saxophone. I was in orchestra, I did my GCSE music, so even though my knowledge of musical theory isn't that strong, I do have some. I do have an interest in music and the history of music, even though that's not really a route that I went down and fully explored. And I saw this and it basically spans from the origin of music like 50,000 years ago right through to the present day. The book says that it is a grand tour of music's history, and I thought that just sounded incredibly fascinating. I did start this a couple of nights ago. I'm only on page 7, but so far this seems really interesting and I think really entertainingly written. I can already tell that Andrew Gant is so full of passion for this topic. Regardless of what genre the music is, he seems to have this thorough knowledge, and I'll have to report back and tell you if this carries through the rest of the book. Quite a big chunky one, so we'll see how long it takes me to get through. And next I will show you the 2 books that I got from my booktube Secret Santa this year. The Secret Santa, who was actually Aoife from Pretty Purple Polka Dots. So thank you so much, Aoife, for these presents. You absolutely hit it out the park? What? Knocked it out the park, that is the phrase. She was very generous and got me 2 books, the first of which being a Shakespeare Motley, an illustrated assortment, which does as it says on the tin. This is basically an A to Z, going through lots of different things to do with Shakespeare, the world that Shakespeare lived in, the kind of things that you'll find in his plays. So for example, there is Jester, Hemlock, Globe, Eye, Doublet and Dragon, and basically taking you through these different objects or places and really charting Shakespeare's relationship to these things, but combined with beautiful illustrations. It's basically a lot of different essays on these subjects to do with Shakespeare, commissioned by Shakespeare Birthplace Trust. I've read this already. I think it's really entertaining, a real good one to go to if you are a Shakespeare fan, but also very accessible if you are new to Shakespeare. And then the next book Aoife got me was Reputation by Lex Croucher. This was one that I was really anticipating back in summer, but just never picked up. As you can see from the cover, this is very much set in the Regency era, and I think is meant to be a little bit of a riff on the traditional Regency romance, but really brought up to date and modernized. The tagline of the book is, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that girls just want to have fun." So I think just in that sentence that gives you the vibe of this book. Just a little bit more rebellious than your standard Regency fare. And I'm very excited to read that and see what I think. And then the last book I got in December that was a present was Great Goddesses, Life Lessons from Myths and Monsters by Nikita Gill. This was very kindly gifted to me by my friend Lizzie, and it is basically a poetry collection just taking different mythological women reimagined through poetry. I can see from the inside that it is just stunningly illustrated, a beautiful front cover. We know that I love a bit of rose gold foiling, and we know that I love a myth retelling, so very excited to read this. And then the next books are things that I got myself. First off, a book that I got for free from my local little library. I dropped off a few books that I didn't want anymore, but of course I had to have a little browse myself to see if there was anything I was interested in, and I found this, which is a book that I've wanted to read for such a long time. This is Contested Will, Who Wrote Shakespeare by James Shapiro. James Shapiro has written a number of books on William Shakespeare, including 1599, and I'm sure there is another one that I've seen recently that he wrote. The topic of the authorship of Shakespeare's works: did William Shakespeare, the playwright, actually exist? Was all of the work written by him? Was it shared between multiple people, or was it an entirely different person who used William Shakespeare's name? That's a topic I've never fully delved into, though I feel like I tend to fall on the side of it was William Shakespeare who wrote his work, but maybe there's a bit of idealism thrown into that. But I do just kind of feel like regardless of who wrote it, the work is there and the work is great, and who cares who wrote it? I don't know, but I wanted to read this so that I feel like I know more about this argument or about the different debates surrounding it, and this is the book that I always see people recommending on this topic. So we'll have a read and see what I think. And then finally, we are getting into the Waterstones half-off books that I picked up for myself because I just couldn't help myself. So first off, back on my Greek myth retellings, we have The Giant Dark by Sarvat Hasin. This is a modern reimagining of the Orpheus and Eurydice myth, but I believe it is gender swapped and also set in the modern day, or if not the modern day, for whatever reason in my head, I've got it in my head that it's the 1970s, but I think that's purely because I've kind of compared it to Daisy Jones and the Six in my head. But in this story, the Orpheus character, who is named Ada, is a rock star. Honestly, I don't know enough of this to really give my own synopsis, so I'm just going to read from the back. Ida is a rock star at her peak, with a devoted cultish fan base which follows her every move. When she disappears into a complicated love affair with an ex, her fans are determined to uncover her truths. After a decade of silence, Ida and Asan reconnect, hoping to recreate the love they shared in their youth. When Asan's life unravels, he follows Ida on tour, but it becomes clear that their connection is strained by secrets and jealousies. The past blurs with their present as they follow in the footsteps of mythic lovers before them. The Giant Dark is a loose retelling of the myth of Orpheus and Eurydice, exploring the consuming and devastating effects of using a lover as a muse. I think I've said before, I'm not the biggest fan of modern retellings of Greek myth. I much prefer it to be set in a classical period. But as I said on Instagram, I've just been listening to Hadestown way too much to completely write this off, and I've heard nothing but good things about it. So I'm really, really intrigued. Let me know if you've read this. Let me know what you think. Next up, another retelling is Learwife by J.R. Thorp. And the reason I was so intrigued to read this is because, as the title suggests, this is a retelling of King Lear, which is my favourite of Shakespeare's tragedies, or at least of the tragedies that I have read. And this is a retelling, but it is not from a character that you would expect. It is from the perspective of a character who doesn't appear in the play, and in fact you probably presumed was dead at the start of the play, which is the character of Lear's wife. Lear's wife and the daughter of his 3 children, Goneril, Regan and Cordelia. And this book takes place after the events of King Lear, when Lear's wife has found out that not only has her husband died, but her 3 daughters as well. And I believe this story is basically her coming to terms with her grief and also trying to find a new way in the world now that her entire family is dead. My real hope for this book is that I'm going to see a lot of the character of Kent. Kent is a character who, spoiler alert, does survive, though I know that he does mention towards the end of the play that because his leader, his king, is dead, that he is not long for this world. But I am really hoping that we do get to see him in this, and I'm hoping I enjoy it. Next up is another historical fiction book that I have heard nothing but good things about, which is Matrix by Lauren Groff. Once again, a book that I don't know too much about aside from it is medieval historical fiction, and I know it takes place in a nunnery, so kind of the same as Learwife. 17-year-old Marie, too wild for courtly life, is thrown to the dogs one winter morning, expelled from the royal court to become the prioress of an abbey. Marie is strange. Tall, a giantess, her elbows and knees stick out, ungainly. At first taken aback by life at the Abbey, Marie finds purpose and passion among her mercurial sisters. Yet she deeply misses her secret lover Cecily and Queen Eleanor. Born last in a long line of women warriors and crusaders, women who flew across the countryside with their sword fighting and dagger work, Marie decides to chart a bold new course for those she now leads and protects. She will bring herself and her sisters out of the darkness into riches and power. Matrix is a bold vision of female love, devotion and desire from one of the most adventurous writers at work today. Does that not sound fantastic? I've never actually read anything of Lauren Groff's, but I am most intrigued by this. And then finally, just a diddy little thing, which I'm not going to lie to you, this was mainly purchased so that I could take my order over £25 so that I could get free delivery. But I do not regret this purchase at all. It was £1 and it was Elizabeth Gaskell, who is an author that I already love, and a little story of hers that I hadn't read before, which is The Old Nurse's Story. This is one of the Penguin Little Black classics, and this has both The Old Nurse's Story and Curious If True. So this will do very, very nicely. Maybe I might read this tomorrow so that I already feel like I'm doing a good job on my reading goals. So there we go. Those are all of the books that I have received in the last few weeks, some of which are Christmas presents and some of which are Christmas presents from me to me. How generous I am. Do let me know if you've read any of the books that I've spoken about today, and let me know what you got for Christmas. Did you get any books? I'd love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic, fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.